So a lot of these individuals are like, yeah, I have an advisor. And then you ask them questions of like, oh, how's your portfolio? Yeah. And they're like, I have no idea. I just trust him. And so there is that lack of bond between the two. And I really do think there is a missing piece of sharing that information and wanting to educate, and not just clients, but that runs down telling a husband, the husband tells the wife, or the wife's in the meeting. And then because they know all of this information and they genuinely enjoy learning it, what's the next step? You share it with your kids.
Welcome to episode 1 of Distilled Assets. This podcast is designed for people that are wanting to learn more about wealth strategies, tax saving strategies, wealth management, retirement planning, and just basically anything to do with your finances, but from a standpoint of actually being able to implement a lot of what we're talking about. We know that there's a lot of gurus and specialists all over the internet, and some of them give great advice, some of them don't. And
some of them say it in a way that people don't understand, that financial jargon.
Yeah, we're going to try to avoid a lot of that. My name is Jaimin and Garabedian. I am a financial advisor. I own Assurance Wealth Management, as well as Assurance Family Office and Assurance Insurance Services. So everything that I will be covering will be from the aspect of actually implementing these strategies and ideas with clients. And to my right is...
My name is Rebekah Davis Garabedian.
And she is the operations manager for all of those companies. So she gets to deal with not just me,
but the clients,
and gets to do everything from a very client-centric point of view.
I am what you call the translator.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes. You talk, and I dumb it down a little bit so that everyone understands, and I add a little fun to it, a little tweak.
Absolutely, yeah. And so she's also in charge of a lot of our marketing that we do for all the companies. And the reason for that being is A, she's more creative than I am, and B, is that she can translate a lot of what I say and what we're trying to do into words and saying it in ways that people can understand. So that is the point of this podcast. So for any of you that are looking out there to get some financial advice, this is not financial advice. When I am on camera, I am not a financial advisor, okay? I am not giving anybody specific financial advice. Please talk to your professionals or a professional if you don't have one before you implement anything.
Hello to the SEC.
Yeah, thank you, compliance officers in the SEC there. But no, you will see that we will be drinking on occasion on these podcasts, and we do like to give thanks to local distilleries, wineries, and breweries that make this podcast a little bit more fun. So today we will be drinking a whiskey from Austin 101. If you guys want to go check it out, look, we're not getting paid to promote them in any form or fashion. We don't even know if we're allowed to do that, but I guess they'll let us know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to pour us a couple here and
yeah, let's get started.
Let's have some fun today.
Better you pour that than me. I'd be like...
Yeah, well...
hair on my chest today. Thank you.
Cheers to our first show. So let's start with who we are. Let's start with why we're doing this and a little bit of our background. So at least that way people that are tuning in can understand why we're doing this and who we are and why they should or shouldn't listen to us.
Okay. So, like I said, I work for you in all aspects, but I'm also the mom of 4. I am learning as I go, and I think that's the unique position that I have compared to yours is... Everything I know now, I have learned in the last decade. I have no financial background.
And when she says that, when she started working with me, we were having to explain to her the difference between stocks and bonds. We were having to explain to her how interest rates work. I mean, she had no financial background. And so I think it's a big part of what helped me grow was having to teach you and say it in ways that you could understand things, not speak the financial jargon that I speak, with other advisors. So I think that's one thing that helped me grow, and hopefully that's something that we can now translate on here and help other people with.
Yeah, I think there's this myth that you should already know all of this information, that you should already know how the market works and how an IRA works and what's the difference between an IRA and a rollover and a Roth and all these things. And the truth is that most people don't know.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, I come in here is that I've been in the industry since 2000. I've been a financial advisor since 2011. I've been in the industry for a few years prior to that in different roles. I come from a second generation of doing this. My father has been a financial advisor for 40 plus years now. So I grew up around this stuff. I've always loved the markets. I traded options, through college to make some money, and it's always been a passion of mine. And then I think as of the last 5 years, 6 years or so, I've actually grown to love the education side of it more than the financial advisory side of it, if that makes any sense. Like I used to really love the building portfolios, building financial plans, but that's something that I do so often now that it's just kind of become repetitive for me. And I think I actually like the education side and teaching people and teaching clients, not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it.
I think that's something we value in the company is we have seen that a lot of advisors do their job and they don't explain it to the client. So a lot of these individuals are like, yeah, I have an advisor. And then you ask them questions of like, how's your portfolio? Yeah. And they're like, I have no idea. I just trust him. And so there is that lack of bond between the two. And I really do think there is a missing piece of sharing that information and wanting to educate, and not just clients, but that runs down the family tree of telling a husband, the husband tells the wife, or the wife's in the meeting. And then because they know all of this information and they genuinely enjoy learning it, what's the next step? You share it with your kids and so on and so forth. A lot of
people are missing is the education to their children and bringing it to the next generation. And I think that's one of the things that you and I have learned quite a bit is our kids. I mean, we've got high schoolers, middle schoolers, and they don't know. I mean, I asked our daughter the other day a question about money, and she had no clue that there were different types of bank accounts.
Yeah.
That she didn't know that there's a savings account or a checking account, or she didn't know that, putting your money in a bank, you could earn interest. She didn't know what interest was. So that's where I feel like our school system fails our kids, is teaching them useful information about money and about wealth and that they can actually take out and use. And so that's where you and I have started really sitting down with our kids and teaching them more and more and more every year, because it is something that they don't get taught in school. I mean, they have classes here and there, and they have topics here and there.
Well, it's usually crammed in. It's usually like, okay,
it's fit in somewhere.
It's okay. Now your kid is 2 years away from graduating and going off to college. And I remember getting close to college and being like, I know what FAFSA is, and I know what grants and Pell Grants and scholarships and all these mean, but I didn't know how they, one, work together, and two, some of it is not the best. There are other ways of using those tools to better yourself. And I didn't know that there were things that you did in the best interest of your kid that now it lessens the ability to get FAFSA or the amount of money that you can get from FAFSA. And I'm still learning that. And I learned that last year. And now we have a 16-year-old about to turn 17. And there was a legitimate panic behind it of like, yeah, we have this money saved for her, but I don't know if that's the best route.
And best use of that money. I mean,
and then talking to someone who was, I can't remember the name all of a sudden, for someone who works for college planner, and having them tell us, you should have been planning for this years ago.
Yeah, they typically say, and this is, we'll definitely do a whole episode around kids and college planning and all that, but you're typically supposed to start planning, saving as early as possible.
Right.
But planning, meaning what classes should your kids take? What after school activities should they do? All of those, start looking at what FAFSA does and doesn't look at. And that kind of planning should start when your kid's in about 6th grade, which seems ridiculous to me because they're 7-8 years out of actually going to college, but you're having to sit there and plan for it.
And I think that's what really, we've had this podcast in mind for 2 years, if we're going to be 100% honest. And we knew kind of a rough idea of what we wanted to do with it. And it was educating people while at the same time educating ourselves. But in your industry and industries that are like yours, such as college planning, there is this, I'll tell you how to do all this.
If you give us
give me money. And let's be honest, most people don't have that type of money, or it's, I'll put it off in the back burner. And then all of a sudden it's, I should have done that years ago.
Well, I was just going to say, in college planning is just one example because I've seen it way more in retirement planning, is that the number one thing that we hear from every single client, it without fail, I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have looked at this sooner. I wish I would have had a plan in place sooner. Because people don't realize retirement planning isn't about just your retirement years. It's planning for retirement. And had you done that earlier in life, you may have been able to retire sooner. Or you may have been able to retire with more money, or you may have, retired because you hit your number that you wanted to hit and then found out that that's actually more than you ever needed. So you could have retired earlier. So there's a lot of things when it comes to financial planning, from college planning to retirement planning, to business owners and doing some planning around your business. Business owners are no different. Every business owner client we've had, I don't want to say everyone, but most are very, very, very good at what they do. They're good at growing their business at whatever it is. But they don't ever think to stop, slow down, and do some business planning. Do some planning around their business taxes, around growth strategies, around scaling, around risk mitigation, around all these different things that they can do to enhance the value of their company. They're just go. And that's what made them successful, is being that way. And that's why sometimes we have to slow them down and say, hey, you guys have done fantastic up to this point. Let's take one step back. You don't have to slow anything down. Let's just take a step back and do some planning around all this and see if we can be more efficient, more effective with your money, more effective and efficient with your business.
Right.
So I think that's a lot of what this is about, is hopefully over time we will mention topics and situations that we have come across with our clients, mention topics and discussions that we've had with different people, even if they're not clients, that will then spark an idea inside the listeners or watchers, however you're watching this, will spark an idea that says, you know what, maybe I should go do that. And what, you know, whether you come to us or anybody else, that's not the point for me. I'm just trying to open people's eyes to go do it now. Right. There is no too early or too soon, or, you know, and it also goes on the other scale of a lot of people think either A, I don't have enough money, or B, I've got enough money and I don't need to do this. It goes both ways. I've seen people, you know, with $10,000 that don't think that they have enough money to do planning or to think about this kind of stuff. But I've also seen people with $10 million that are like, I've got enough money. I'm going to be just fine. And that's probably true. But do you not want to be more efficient, more effective with your money? Do you not want to maximize your opportunities as much as possible? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Yeah. But I think there's a place for everybody in financial planning, because, you know, I've been in this business, like I said, I've been doing financial planning since 2011, and I'm still learning new stuff all the time. And maybe that's just because that's the way I am. I'm constantly taking more classes and constantly trying to learn more things, but there's always a new, better way of doing things. And so going out and educating yourself is important. Yeah.
And everything is changing all the time. With each president that we have, as each year goes, it's constantly changing. And that's something that is, for me, particularly hard to keep up with sometimes, of like, wait, I just now figured out X, Y, and Z, and then bam, everything changes, and having to keep up with that momentum, and then having to decide or figure out and research what is true and what is not. Fact checking is extremely important, and that goes with feeling comfortable enough to ask questions. And I think for financial advisors, you guys do have a bad rep.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
And so I think that there are a lot of individuals who are afraid to ask you guys questions because, one, they're just trying to sell me something. Yep. Two, they're not doing it in the best interest of me. Yep. They're doing it in the best interest of themselves. How can they make $1 out of it? And I think that was another thing that we wanted for this podcast, was for us to sit down and say, we are people too.
Yeah. And it goes for all the videos and podcasts and all the content that we put out. I mean, we put out blogs and newsletters and short videos, long videos, podcasts, webinars. I mean, we're constantly putting out as much content as possible. And it's all from a vantage point of education. Like, just learn. It doesn't cost you anything to watch all of our content.
Because everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
I need to see kind of person. And some people are like, no, I want to listen while I'm on my way to work. I retain information that way. And so that was...
I listen to audiobooks.
How can we do that? Yeah. How can we do that? That is educational, fun, that's clear. And that isn't just spewing out some BS.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the stages of learning. It's, you know, you start with, you don't know what you don't know. Right? I mean, you've got the things that you don't know and you need to ask questions about. You've got the things that you know and you think maybe you're doing things the best way, but that's where kind of the you don't know what you don't know comes into play is, hey, I know how to do investing. I know how to build a portfolio. I've done well. Okay. But are there better ways? You don't know until you start educating yourself. And I think that's, you know, I forgot who it was. I'm not very good at quotes, but there was somebody important and much smarter than me that said something along the lines of the best investment that you could make is in your own education.
Sounds like a smart person.
Yeah. I'd love to take credit for it.
We don't do that.
Yeah, but it wasn't me. I don't know. Read it, heard it somewhere. So, so I think the basis of behind all of what we're saying is we're going to be trying to educate people on different topics every episode that will hopefully not teach them everything they need to know about the topic, because these aren't going to be 24-hour episodes, but try to get them to at least spark an interest in learning more. Right. Especially if it's something that, perks their ears up, and it's we start talking about college planning. They're like, "Ooh, I've got a kid or a grandkid that needs to do this." Right. Or if we start talking about, business growth opportunities and working with growth coaches, "Ooh, I've got a business. Maybe I should look into that." Or tax saving strategies. I mean, there's so many tax saving strategies out there that unfortunately, even CPAs, even tax accountants, don't get into. They don't talk to their clients about. Most of them are, they fill out the paperwork and file your taxes at the end of the year, but they're not sitting down with you doing actual planning and strategizing and telling you ways of lowering your taxes. So while I'm not a tax professional, we do work with a number of CPAs, and we do strategize with them, and we want to pass on that information to everybody that we talk to.
And so that is another aspect of all of this, is that I sometimes will be here and will sometimes not be here. Sometimes we'll have a third party that's a specialist in another area. That's what we're wanting, is to sit down, have individuals sit down who specialize in other areas and say, I have this information to share for you that's up to date. I have this information to share with you that is up to date, full of information that you could take to a CPA, or you can come to them if you want, research them. I don't know how all that's going to work. But it's a sit down with all of these individuals that connect into the financial world.
Yeah. Yeah, and if people watching this or listening to this have specific, questions about their life, about what they're doing, feel free to ask. You can always comment on any of the videos. We will be reading and commenting back, and we will see every single one of those. We don't have a big team that's doing this. It's us. We're going to be reading all of it. So feel free to comment, and we can either, respond to you offline if you'd like it that way, or we can respond in a video or in the next podcast. It doesn't matter. We'll get you an answer that one way or another. So feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like. When it comes to your specific personal situation, we can't give you any advice unless you are a client. But we can get into that, on a one-off basis as questions come in. Trying to think of what else we need to let people know about the podcast and the purpose of this. I mean, it's just education. At the end of the day, we are just trying to educate people and have a little fun doing it. But we want to help. We want to help any way that we can. We want to help whoever we can. But that involves interaction. So
yeah, this is heavily dependent on communication from both sides.
Yeah, and I think most podcasts talk at people. We're going to sit here and talk for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever however long the podcast is, and they just talk at people and there's no interaction. Right. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So while nobody's here live asking questions, and we don't have, the ability to do that yet, we may do that in the future. Ask as many questions as you want in the comments, or shoot us emails. Well, I mean, in the description, there'll always be contact information. So let's make this interactive as possible. Reach out to us. Let us know what questions you have, what we can do for you, and we'll address it in the next episode. I think there's a lot of information to get out. And so I think that we'll be able to do this for quite some time.
I mean, we announced this privately last week to family and friends, and we encouraged them to message us with questions. And the flood of of ideas that came in were astounding, because right now we think kind of black and white in a sense. And I'll give kind of a little sneak peek. We had an individual, a good friend of ours, whose daughter is special needs. Mm-hmm. And she really wanted us to have a conversation about what that looks like. And I remember saying to you, I don't know what that looks like. Mm-hmm. I don't know what an individual, a parent who is raising a child with medical needs or any sort of needs outside, the bubble.
The normal.
Right. I was trying to think of appropriately how to say that. I hate
saying that, but I mean, all planning is typically done around the same type of family.
Right.
With the same needs and the same goals. But when you do have somebody with special needs, things change.
Right.
And there's, government agencies to account for that help or don't help. And then there's certain requirements. There's certain income levels and asset levels that somebody with special needs can be at to receive some of that help. And we will definitely go through that. We got her comment and we promised her that we would absolutely go through that.
It lit a fire in my rear to be like, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. So we need to have a private conversation with her to get a glimpse into her life, whether that is, in front of the camera or not, of what does your life look like? What do you feel like things are missing? And then for us to do the research of how can we take that information and spread it.
Well, and her and I have had conversations before about it. So
right.
I do know.
I don't.
I do know a lot of what she's going through and how it works. And it's just, it can be very complicated. And I think her goal wasn't necessarily to ask us that to help her, because I have sat down with her before. I think it's more of to just raise awareness to other families that have special needs children. Here's some information. Here's the things you need to look out for. Here's what we went through. We meaning her and her family. But that's the type of stuff that we want. We want you guys to let us know what you're going through and what questions you have or things that you've already been through. Right. You think other people could benefit from that information. And then we will discuss those stories, talk about, kind of how things were handled, maybe give some different advice about ways they could have been better or worse. But yeah, I think those kind of stories, and from any aspect. I mean, one of the other people that reached out to us after we did the Friends and Family is a family member of mine who is in the Air Force. And the Air Force and, all military, government agencies, people that work for the government, they have a whole different set of rules than anybody working for corporate America when it comes to retirement planning and investing and what they can and can't do. And so talking to him and some of his buddies, they've got a different set of planning that they're looking at doing, and they've got a different circumstance, and a lot of them are overseas and receive their income, not in the United States. So how does that affect their taxes and what they can and can't do? Everybody's got a different situation. And so hopefully over time we can address everybody's situation, but that takes us finding out what your situation is and seeing if we can go through it with you. I think there's a lot of education to be had out there, and there's unfortunately not many people out there that I've seen, at least. There's a couple, but not many people out there that I've seen that are putting the information out for the sake of putting the information out.
Oh, it's always clickbait.
It's always clickbait.
Drives me up the wall.
And I don't even know how to create clickbait, so you don't have to worry about me doing that.
Yes.
I'm not the creative digital marketing guru that some are. I'm out here to push as much information out to people as possible and let you do with that what you would like. Which again, I can't emphasize this enough, and you're going to hear me say it on every episode, is the information that we give is educational. Don't go run with it, okay? Talk to a professional, whatever aspect it is, and get some help if you need it. If you don't, fantastic. But if you screwed up, don't come blame me. just
Not my fault.
Yeah, I'm just here to try to educate and put out my 2 cents about different topics, and hopefully some people walk away with some good information.
So I think this is a healthy conversation between two people who between you and I, work in the financial industry, where when I first met you, my situation was very different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously so was my knowledge. And I want to stress that there is no dumb question. Everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah, and we've got, through the family office environment that we have, we've got over 65 different specialists now that we work with that are in, 40 different niches or industries. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to any aspect of personal finance or business finance and business owners, look, I'm not going to even sit here and tell you or pretend to you that I know everything about everything in the financial world. That's why I've built the network that I have, is if I don't know the answer, I've got somebody that probably does.
I'll go find someone.
Yeah. We've got it's somebody in our network that probably does.
It's limiting I don't know. You go find someone.
Yeah.
That's frustrating for me because I wouldn't even know the first thing to do to find someone and to be able to connect the dots of I have a CPA over here. I have a financial advisor over here. I have an estate planning attorney over here. And having to run as the individual, run between the two of them and be the communicator. Mm-hmm. And I think we've started to really put effort into, it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
It should be all these industries can work together to benefit the client, the individual.
I mean, and I come from sports. I've played sports my whole life. I love it. Still watch it. It's sports are a big part of my life. And within all those sports, the one thing that you always will learn is that no one player, whether you're looking at basketball, baseball, football, all the majors, there's no one player that can ever win a game by himself. You have to depend on your teammates. You have to build a team.
There's no I in team.
Yeah, but there's a me. So there's, that's why we've built these companies the way we have, is it's a giant team. Mm-hmm. It's a bunch of people working together towards the common goal, and that common goal is the clients, whatever the client's goal is. And so we just kind of act as the point man. It's just, client comes to us, hey, we've got these issues, or hey, we're trying to do this. How's the best way to do it? We go out to talk to everybody and get all the answers that we need to get, put a plan together, come back to the client. Here's you go.
Right.
So I would advise anybody out there to get yourself a team of people that can help you accomplish the goals that you're looking for. And, because a team is always going to be stronger and more knowledgeable than any one individual. And I think a lot of the reason that I did that, and I'll probably touch on this from episode to episode, but I started my career at a very large firm, one of the top firms out there globally.
Thou shalt not be named.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll slip at some point. But one of the things that always just got to me when I was working there was we were kind of trained that if any client ever came to us and asked any sort of question about taxes, other than, an IRA is taxed when you pull out money and a Roth is never taxed, blah, 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 blah. Other than the basic investment tax related questions, if they ask anything else about taxes, the go-to knee-jerk response is always, oh, I'm not a tax professional. You're going to have to go ask your CPA. Same thing for estate planning.
Why? Can you give your insight as to why you think that they do
liability?
That?
They don't want to take on liability.
Okay.
They don't want for you to give, because you got to think those large firms have thousands of advisors. Mm-hmm. Some of them giving those answers will know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Some of them won't. And so they don't want some that don't to give give an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Their client goes out and implements it, gets screwed, comes back, sues advisor, sues firm. Like that's what they're trying to avoid. And so their knee-jerk reaction is always, I don't know, go ask your CPA.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, go ask your estate planning attorney. Or, I mean, if you're not in their little bubble of investment accounts, it's, I don't know, go ask so-and-so.
And being in the bubble means you have a lot of money and we hold you to
not necessarily that. Like, unless you're asking questions about investment accounts.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So unless you're asking specific questions about investment accounts, the knee-jerk reaction is, I don't know, go ask XYZ, whatever specialist on that question is, which is fine from a liability standpoint. I get it. I get why they do it. But I thought from a client perspective, now the clients are having to go ask you this question, this person this question, that person that question. Mm-hmm. It's just a pain. It is a time consuming and it's a pain. So what we would try to do is just build a
network
of people that we can work with, that we know that they're good at what they do. And if a client comes to us with a question, we'll go get you an answer.
Right.
We don't expect you to run around and go get the answer. We'll go get it.
No, it doesn't need to be that difficult.
Yeah. And I think we've gone, I don't know. I think we've gone on enough about our company and what we do and how we do it. This is not a commercial to come work with us.
No.
Don't think that it is. At the end of the day, we're going to go off on tangents. Okay. Look, neither one of us are professional speakers, public speakers. We're just sitting here having a conversation and hopefully we say enough things that are interesting that you guys are learning something from it.
Yeah. I think once we get past the introduction and we feel a little bit more comfortable, I think it will flow a little bit better. Yeah. But until then, please bear with us.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's we're not professional at this. This is not our forte.
This is not our day job.
No, not at all. And so this is going to be a learning process for us. And, we hope that you guys stick around to grow with us while we learn how to do this better and better. Because I think there will be a lot of really good financial education and information that's shared. It's just, while you guys are learning financial education and wealth management, tax strategies and all that fun stuff, we're learning how to teach it better. I think we're learning how to convey those messages a little bit better. So we've got some learning to do from a presenting the information standpoint, and we promise we will get better. We will work on it. But I think, we'll kind of wrap this up with, if you are interested in financial information and education, and we seem like the type of people that you want to learn it from. I'm going to ask you guys in every one of these episodes, subscribe, comment, share, the whole 9
shebang
that every digital marketer asks you to do. And the reason for that isn't because we have no intention of making money off of any of this. Okay. But what liking, subscribing, sharing, all that does for us is it lets us know the type of information that you guys like. Mm-hmm. It lets us know the type of content that you want more of. And it's going to, obviously, by hitting the notification bell on YouTube or wherever you heard this and watched this, they all have the subscribe version. But it'll notify you that we're putting out new stuff. And I think that's it. So thank you guys for tuning into this. If you've watched all the way through, again, subscribe, all the fun stuff. If you want to hear more about the next episode or any other content that we put out. And Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
All right.
Cheers.